Deontay Wilder, where does he go from here? Is it over? The end of the road? Does he retire? I wouldn't like to see him retire. I have been listening to a couple of channels saying that he should retire, and I disagree. The only way that he should retire is if he wants to retire, being that he is almost about to be 36 years old. You know, he's getting to that age to where he has a decision to make. Does he want to continue fighting or does he want to quit? Now, I didn't see anything, in my opinion, that says he should stop. I actually thought he looked very good, especially early. I saw improvements, even though other people may disagree. But I saw a better Deontay Wilder, and it reflected in this fight. Because when you look at it, Tyson Fury knocked him down in the third round. Then coming into the fourth round, Deontay Wilder floors Tyson Fury twice. In the 10th round, the round before he got stopped, he almost dropped Tyson Fury again at the end of the 10th round. He got a very good flurry on Tyson Fury, and although people said he looked tired, he was still dangerous throughout. So we're going to get into a good bit. I'm not going to try to make this a 5-hour-long video, but I do think Deontay Wilder is good enough to fight again, and I do think that he is good enough to stay at the top, and I do see a lot of improvements that Malik Scott brought to it, although I would like to see more wrinkles added into his game plan. Now, going forward, let's look at some good stuff that Deontay Wilder did and say why that good stuff turned out to be bad. The body work, the straight shots down the line. Now, I said in my pre-fight breakdown that I wanted him to do short hooks to the backside of the body. Why is that? Because when you're fighting a guy with a lot of fluff like Tyson Fury, straight punches to the abdomen don't hurt them as bad as it does coming around behind all that fat. See, that fat is a cushion. It's not like hitting Anthony Joshua in the abdomen to where it's just straight popping something that would affect you, that would get sore like muscle. No, you're punching padding because of all that blubber. So you want to come around behind it. Although you can hit them to the front of the abs to just work the body, you still don't want to focus just on straight attacks. You want to come around behind with short hooks, catch them to the back of the body like I explained. Another thing to go with that is his attacks were very one-dimensional, meaning that he did not switch levels, that when he was attacking to the body, he was only attacking to the body. The few times that he went high with the jabs, he was only going high with the jabs. He needs to change up levels. It looked great. The speed, the explosion, everything that he was doing in the first couple of rounds was good. However, there was no variation in attacks. So while Tyson Fury did look hesitant in the first and didn't know what was going on in the first 2 rounds, the problem is he adapted and he adjusted and he saw what Wilder was doing because Wilder wasn't changing up what he was doing. Now, another issue that people want to say that I heard was that Malik Scott's not a good trainer because he wasn't telling Deontay Wilder to keep his guard up when Tyson Fury was throwing at his head, and that's incorrect. He definitely was. In the corner, Malik Scott said, keep your phone up, keep your phone up, keep your phone up like we worked on. Keep your phone up means like if you're holding a cell phone to your ear, just do that. Do that motion. Look, you're blocking now. So he was definitely telling him to keep his hands up. He was definitely telling him to block, and I thought he was giving him good instructions. Now, again, I don't think it was his defense as much as it was his linear attacks. So the thing that I was seeing that hurt Wilder the most in this fight was the check hooks. Whenever Wilder was coming straight down the pipe, Fury started timing him better, and better because he wasn't throwing up feints. He wasn't changing levels, like I said earlier. So he was becoming predictable. And as Fury started to predict his movements, he got his timing down and he kept catching them constantly with check hooks, which hurt Deontay Wilder. Now, here's the thing. People want to say he got tired, but they don't understand because they've never fought before. They've never been in a fight before, no real fight. Any type of fight they've ever been in was probably something in elementary, middle school, high school at best. But they've never been in a real fight. They've never been trained to fight. They don't understand what it takes to fight, and they don't understand what it feels like to be in a fight, a real fight. And the thing about it is, when you get hit a lot, it drains your energy as well. You don't have to just get tired throwing punches. Getting beat up on can make your body exhausted. It can make your body tired. So that is an aspect that people don't even bring up because they've never fought before. They've never been trained to fight. They don't understand what goes into a fight. So when it comes to Deontay Wilder's added weight, additional weight, they're trying to say it was a bad thing. No, it was a good thing. Because in my opinion, He looked better in this trilogy fight than he did in the two previous fights. Yes, the first fight ended in a draw. However, when you look at the first fight, you got to look at the circumstances around it. What did we have with Tyson Fury? We had a Tyson Fury that was over 20 pounds lighter. 20 pounds lighter. He came in at 250 something in that first fight. Secondly, he fought two D-level opponents that put up zero opposition before he got in there with Deontay Wilder. So he had no punch resistance. His body wasn't ready to take the shots that Deontay Wilder was going to deliver on him. However, it can be argued that for 10 out of the 12 rounds, Tyson Fury outboxed him. And you can also argue that in the 2 rounds where Tyson Fury got dropped, he got up and still won the rounds. Me, by default, I don't give fighters who get dropped the round unless they drop the guy who dropped them, even if they come back to outbox them. But you could argue that Tyson Fury outboxed him for both the rounds he got dropped. Sure as hell outboxed him in the 12th round to where supposedly he was knocked out, but then he had Wilder wobbling all over the ring. So again, I look at that. Second fight, one-sided. Not even a competition. But again, that was a Fury who's now 6 fights in. Much more seasoned. He's already felt what Deontay Wilder had. And then he got into 2 decently hard fights against Otto Wallin and Wach. It's Tom Schwartz. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Wach. He fought Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin in competitive fights. So those were bigger men, better class men. We'll say probably like B-level. Otto Wallin may be an A-level fighter. I'm not sure yet. We're going to find out with how he looks against Dillian White. But you could see his class whenever he fought Dominic Brazil. Very good fighter. So he got into 2 competitive fights with guys. And then he went into a 6th fight with Deontay Wilder in the rematch. And ate everything that Deontay Wilder had. Walked straight into right hands, took 0 damage, did not get hurt. And then just completely one-sided mollywopped him. Tyler was thrown in. People were fired. Now we come into the trilogy. What did we see in the trilogy? The first round, I gave to Wilder. The second round, arguably, you could give it to either guy. But it was because of what Wilder was doing and the impact of his shots that was keeping Fury confused and uneasy in there, because Wilder was throwing nice straight shots, good crisp jabs, and setting up just with the lead straight too. However, going into the third round, the issue is Wilder, as I explained earlier, became very one-dimensional in his attacks. Although he showed more punch selection, he didn't change up the way that he did his attacks. So Fury, being the technical boxer he is with a high IQ, he adapted. And he saw it. And he started timing them better, and started catching them with check hooks. Now, we saw Wilder get dropped. Got dropped hard. But he got right back up. Third round. Going into the 4th round, what did we see? We saw Wilder drop Fury twice. And it looked like that the fight was about to be over. Then the 5th round comes on. And again, it's pretty much rinse and repeat. Wilder, same type of attacks. Now he's starting to get tagged more and more. We go all the way up to the 10th round. I'm just skipping. And we see Wilder getting pretty much beat up like he did in the first fight. In the rematch. However, at the end of that 10th round, he damn near got Fury dropped again. He hurt Fury badly. Hurt him badly. Fury came back in the 11th to finish it. But my point is this. If you look at his performance in between the 3 fights, this was his best performance by far. Even though he got stopped, that's not the story of the fight. The story of the fight is the type of damage that he actually did to Tyson Fury as well. And in my opinion, he did a lot more damage to him in this fight than he did in the first 2. So the weight to me is a non-factor of being a hindrance. If anything, it helped him, because if you looked at this fight too, there were several times when Tyson Fury was trying to lean him down, bend him over. And at least for the first half of the fight, Deontay Wilder was being very good at standing Fury straight up and not allowing it to happen. The referee was also good, because Fury tried to do the headlock bullshit that I made a video about before anybody even said Fury did anything dirty. I made that video, and the referee stopped it immediately, said, don't choke him. We're not going to allow that. So The referee was very good at keeping it as fair as you could keep a fight. Give him all the credit in the world. He also allowed both fighters to continue, which was great, until, one could not continue because he gave everything he had. Now, as far as people hating on Wilder, I don't see why. He went in there. He fought the fight of his life, and he just turned out not to be the better guy. And he went out exactly how he said he wanted to go out, on his shield. He gave his, you could say, dying breath to continue to fight. At times where in the 9th, 10th round where he looked dead to the world, exhausted, even in the 11th where he got put out. He looked exhausted. He kept fighting. He kept exchanging. He kept throwing. He never gave up, but eventually the body will fail the mind when pushed to its limits. So the guy proved that he has a tremendous amount of heart and a very good chin, because he started to get beat up on, much like the rematch in the second half of the fight, because again, I believe it had to do with him being one-dimensional in the way that he attacked. Again, he showed better punch selection, but those punch selections were coming the same way every time. So it's very hard to beat somebody who can predict what you're going to do before you do it, because you keep doing the same thing, rinse and repeat. That would be my only critique of what I saw with Malik. He didn't tell Wilder how to change up his attack or tell him that he needed to change up his attack. He was giving him good advice, but a vital piece of information he wasn't giving him, and that was change up the way that you're attacking. You got to change levels. You've got to feint. You can throw straights, but you also got to throw hooks, mix in upper. You got to change up your way, step around, then attack. Don't just keep coming forward in a straight line. And that to me was the downfall of Deontay Wilder. But again, I think the Deontay Wilder that I saw with my eyes, especially early, gives a lot of these guys a lot of issues. A lot of issues. He looked strong, he looked fast, and he sure as hell was hitting hard. So I don't see a worse Deontay Wilder. I think if Deontay Wilder would have came into this fight at 212, he would have got manhandled and mauled, and he would have been too small. I think, if anything, this fight would have turned out much worse. Way worse. Because you got a Fury now who's coming in bigger. People like to say, oh, bigger's not better. Well, Fury came in bigger at 277, over 20 pounds more than what he did the first time when he fought Wilder. And it pretty much was the same conclusion, just more stretched out than the rematch, where he also came in bigger. He keeps coming in bigger because he knows weight matters. Now, what I do find funny is the same people who critique Deontay Wilder coming in heavier praise the real big baby, Jared Anderson. And Jared Anderson weighs more than Deontay Wilder, and he's shorter than him. So, people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They really don't. They want to say weight this, weight that, but they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about, because they say a guy with a smaller frame, shorter stature is good with the heavier weight, when you got a guy who's much taller, who can carry more weight naturally because he has a bigger frame. Oh no, the more weights, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. This is what I'm saying. A lot of people have never fought before. They never even done athletics before. And I'm not taking shots at anybody. I'm just saying that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They say that muscle slows you down. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because you can look at any speed sport and you're going to see that whether it be sprinters, running backs, whatever, they're all going to be very muscular built. Because if you don't become obese with muscle, it improves your speed. It improves you. Now, can being too big with muscle cause you to get tired faster? Yes, it can. If you become obese with muscle, if you're muscle bound. But 238 and 6'7", it's nowhere near being muscle bound. What it had to do with was, again, in the second half of the fight, Tyson Fury was doing a good job at bending Wilder over, leaning on top of him, and he was landing punches on him in concession. See, normally Wilder doesn't get hit a lot. When Wilder has had fights that have stretched out, he's normally been the one dictating the pace. He's normally been the one inflicting the damage and taking very little back. When you're getting damage inflicted on you, you don't have the same type of lungs. And I can promise you this, the less weight that you have is the less damage you can take. Your body will fold before at a lighter weight than it will at a heavier weight. You can take a hell of a lot more damage the bigger you become. So I can assure y'all that if Wilder would have came in small for this fight, he would have got beat up 1,000 times worse, and he would have looked 1,000 times more tired quicker. Like, it's just the fact of the matter, and people can disagree with me. That's cool. I respect their opinion, but respectfully, I have to disagree with all of that. And again, I want to say this before I get off, because it's a long video. I personally do not think Deontay Wilder's career is over. I think he looks good under Malik Scott. Had this fight been 2 or 3 fights down the road for the trilogy, which it should have been, especially switching up everything, this may have been a different outcome. I believe that if Wilder continues to fight and continues to train the way that he is, he will become better than what he has been. Because I already see the flash in the pan. I can already see the skills improving. I can already see him getting better. And if he's given another 2 to 3 fights underneath Malik Scott in the way that he's got him training, I believe he'll be a threat to any top tier guy. And unfortunately, Wilder is at the latter part of his career to where he's just now working on things he should have worked on 20 fights ago, 30 fights ago. He should have been working on this. So he's way behind the curve. But again, I think if he wants to continue to fight, you put him out there with a tomato can, not so people can yell bum squad, but you got to put him in there with somebody that he can display what he's learned and he's not at risk at losing or getting knocked out. Put him in there with a guy that's a tomato can, boom. Put your skills on display. Don't try to go for the first round knockout. I mean, if it comes because it just comes, then it is what it is, but work on your skills. Use him as a moving punching bag. Go into the second fight a guy who's sea level. And then in the third fight, because you can fight 3 times in a year, especially if they're just soft touches and you don't get hurt. Then in that third fight, I would go up against a guy like Dillian White, Anthony Joshua. If he loses again, a Joe Joyce, something like that, test yourself. And if you can beat one of those guys, I can tell y'all that people would pay to see the 4th fight with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. I would pay to see it. Now, that doesn't mean that Tyson Fury would take the fight. But the thing about it is, if Deontay Wilder can come back, beat top tier fighters moving forward within the next 2 years where Fury should still be fighting, then there can be enough push to where people want to see the 4th fight. And after seeing this trilogy, I would pay to see the 4th fight without a doubt, because I just think Wilder is going to be that much better. And I will say this before I get off. The Wilder that I saw tonight fight Tyson Fury, I believe, would have beat Anthony Joshua. That's how much I think he's improved. I've never given Wilder a shot against Anthony Joshua, and I think this version, and y'all got to remember these predictions, I'm very good. I'm very surgical. Listen to what I said. On this one, I said my soul was going for Deontay Wilder, pulling for him, but I think Tyson Fury is going to pick it out. I picked Tyson Fury 2-0 now on my new record, 71-9 on my old record, and even higher than that on the unofficial record, right? But listen to what I said. I said if Deontay Wilder was going to win, look for him to hurt Tyson Fury in the mid-rounds. And lo and behold, the start of the mid-rounds, the 4th round, he drops his ass twice. So my prediction, if you go back and listen to it, was right on both sides. It was right about how Fury would win, and it was right about how Deontay Wilder would do. Think about that. So again, from somebody who has a very high percentage of being right, I'm telling y'all, it would be foolish for Deontay Wilder to quit fighting unless he wants to. It would be foolish because I think this Deontay Wilder, especially if you give him another 2 to 3 fights underneath Malik Scott in the new way he's training, I know he could beat Anthony Joshua. And I've always said that I think he can beat Usyk. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I don't think this is the end. I think this could be the furnace. Sorry, guys. This could be the phoenix burning up in flames and being reborn from here forward. It just all depends on what he wants to do. And I will say this, I don't like the unsportsmanship where he wouldn't even shake Fury's hand or talk to him after the fight, because here's the deal. With all the cheating allegations, we know in this fight right here, Fury did not cheat. There was too many eyes open to see cheating tactics, too many eyes open to see gloves and all of that. And this shit was 100% down the line. And, unfortunately for Wilder, he got stopped. But remember, keep in mind, I want to say this. This is what certain fans wanted to see happen to Deontay Wilder. This is what they wanted. They didn't want the towel to come across. They didn't want the referee to step in, because he could have before the 11th round. They could have stopped the fight and saved Deontay Wilder from the knockout. But this is what they wanted. They wanted to see Deontay Wilder on the canvas, unable to get back up and beat the count. And that's what they got. So for the people who wanted to see that, I hope y'all are happy, because you got what you wanted. And because that happened to him, he may not come back again. So the fighter that you quote unquote love, good job. Y'all might have just ended his career.